Hello and welcome to my Christmas tree gnome class. Let's go ahead and dig right in. To start, I'm going to be laying out my pattern pieces on 2 pieces of Kelly green felt and 2 pieces of apple green felt. I'll then trace and cut these pieces out. I do not show this process, I just wanted to show you how they lay out on the felt so that you can see there will be a little bit left over for the shoes later. In the pattern pieces for the tree, I have included 2 options for your hat. Now that I have my pieces cut, I'm going to begin gluing the sides, and I try to make sure I keep these in order so I don't get mixed up later, but I'm just going to glue each of the sides on every one of these pieces. I like to use my ruler to kind of press down on the glue when it's on the felt. It just kind of helps things set very quickly and keeps me from burning myself. Now I'm going to grab a piece of material and I'm just going to cut out a little area for the base. So I laid the cone right on top of it, and I've already traced my cone, and I'll show you kind of how I did that here in a second. But once I've got that cut out, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of my cone and just glue it right onto that material. And then I'm going to cut off the excess, but I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch overhang. And then I'm going to clip those or snip those little tabs into it. So you'll see me cut about every 1/4 of an inch apart, about a pinky finger's width, just between those spaces. And then I'm going to glue those onto the side of the cone. Now I'm ready to wrap my cone. So to do this, I like to match up the edge with the base of my cone, but I like to allow for about 2 inches over the top, just so that it will wrap all the way around. Now I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue up the side so that I can glue this together, finish it off. And then I'm going to trim off my excess and then trim off my edge. I'm also going to trim down the top of the cone so that I can fold those pieces over and lay them flat. I will add a little bit of hot glue in here just to make sure it stays securely in place. At this point, I'm ready to work on the legs, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the wire from my bendy hair rollers. These are medium size, what I call medium. So at Dollar Tree, they have 3 different sizes. They have a very skinny long one, a medium, and then a chunky larger one. This is the medium. And I'm marking those both at 4 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and trim that off and get rid of it. And then I'm going to wrap these bendy hair rollers. And once I've got them wrapped, I'm going to go ahead and insert my dowel rods. Now I'm ready to wrap them, so I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue to the side. And I like to start on opposite sides, the opposite direction, so that both pieces of material are turning inward on the legs. Before I glue the other end and go ahead and finish it off, I'm going to fold over a little bit of excess material just to create a clean finished off edge. Because I'm using striped material, I want to try and line my lines up to each other, so that's what I'm making sure of here as I set it together. I'm going to be using 3/16 wide by 12 inches long dowel rods, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those in half so they end up being 6-inch long dowel rods. Once I have my dowel cut in half, I'm going to go ahead and insert them both into my hair rollers. Now I'm ready to build my shoes and legs, so I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue into these baby shower booties, and I'm going to insert some hex nuts. I like to do this for weight. This is not necessary. This step is optional, but I think it adds good weight and balance to the gnome. So once I have my hex nuts in there, I'm going to add more hot glue and insert my leg, my dowel with the hair roller into there and create my leg. Now I'm just checking the balance to make sure that it's straight, and I'll set those aside and begin working on building the shoe, creating the cover for the shoe. I'm using those 2 pieces of apple green felt that I had left over, and I'm just going to cut out some squares that are bigger than the base of my shoe, and I'm going to glue these directly to the bottom of my shoe, and then again, just like I did on the cone, I'm going to go around and trim the excess, and I'll trim it to about 1/4 of an inch, and I will then cut those little tabs into the felt. And once I get those tabs cut, then I will apply hot glue and lay those down against the shoe. I'm grabbing my green apple felt again, and I'm just going to cut off enough, probably about 2 to 2.5 inches, to wrap around the sides of the shoe. And here I'm just cleaning up my edges and making sure they're straight, and then I'll begin wrapping, starting at the back of the shoe and wrapping my way around. I like to work on both shoes at the same time, so I'm going to go ahead and glue the other one to the back, and then I'm going to begin wrapping it around. So I'll take my hot glue and I'll just lay it on that edge and roll that shoe into that felt. I'll do this all the way around for this one, and then I'll move on to the other one. And I'll go ahead and trim off my excess and make sure that my material is even all the way around. And I'm just making sure that it's going to scrunch up really good. Both of my shoes are ready, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut my places in the bottom of the cone so that I can insert those legs. So I'm just marking so you can see. And I like to make sure that my material is either in the middle of the front or the middle of the back. And I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and cut on those X's, and then I'll insert my dowels into the bottom of these, and make sure you add some hot glue so that they stay securely in place. And be sure and check your balance so that your gnome is standing straight upright. This is also the point where you can add some more character to your gnome by turning in their feet or turning one out. You can kind of play with it before that hot glue sets and see how you like it. Now I'm ready to move on to the arms. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark at 5 inches on both of them, and I'm going to remove that excess foam from that area. And then once I've removed it, I need to glue the other end to the little cap. So you'll see me pull it away here and add a little dot of hot glue and then just press it back onto there. This is so that it doesn't move around on me and I don't lose that cap. I want to go ahead and prep my sleeves, so I'm going to go ahead and fold up one edge. I'm doing this on this material in particular because I'm not going to be adding a ruffle or anything around the wrist, and this will help to keep the material from fraying or any fray showing. This will also create a very clean edge, very nice clean edge. I'm going to do the same thing on the side once I get the arm wrapped. But right now I'm just going to go ahead and do that bottom and then cut these two pieces in half. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on the mittens. So I'm taking this piece of scrap red felt that I have, and I'm just going to cut enough that I know will be more than enough. So I'm cutting probably about 6 inches length and probably about 4 inches width. And I'm just going to cut that in half and then use my little pattern here in a second, and I'll trace my little mittens out and then begin building those. Once I have my mittens cut out, I'm going to go ahead and add hot glue around the very edge, and you want to be careful not to add too much hot glue here or it'll make it more difficult to turn them right side out. So I'm just going to add hot glue, press them together using either my fingers or my ruler. I do a little bit of both. I'm going to work my way all the way around, and I'm going to do both mittens, and then I'm going to grab a little dowel rod that I kind of created as a turner, and I added some hot glue to the end of it to just kind of create a grip on it, and it's going to help me turn this mitten right side out. And there are other things you can use that are made for this. I'm just showing you a really quick and easy kind of a DIY way that I've found that works just fine. Now that I have both my mittens turned right side out, I'm going to take some polyfill or cotton, and I'm just going to use that same rubber end. It works great. You can also use a pencil with the eraser side and poke your material inside of your mitten. It works really great to get it in. And here I'm kind of twisting so that I grab onto that material and just poke it right in, and it'll go in very easily. Again, you can use polyfill or cotton to do this, little cotton balls. I'm ready to add them to my arms now, so I'm going to go ahead and see how they look, and then I realize I have a little more material than I want, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that excess off, probably about 1/4 of an inch, if that much. And then I'm just going to add them again, and once I get them secured in place, I'm ready to add my sleeves. So here I'm showing you the measurements are 2.5 by 7 inches. This is plenty of material. And I'm lining that up with where that I can feel that cap inside, and I'm just going to roll that material onto my, or I'm sorry, I'm going to roll my hair roller onto that material. And if you notice, I'm doing these sleeves just like I did the legs on opposite ends of each other. Again, this will create that sleeve being on the inside for both of them. And then before I finish wrapping, I will fold the other edge and create a clean edge for my sleeves. I have a lot of excess material on the on the end opposite of the mitten, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that excess off, leaving about a half to a full inch over the end of my foam hair roller. I want to be able to see the metal hook, but I don't want to expose the hair roller. And then by leaving that excess material, I can fold it in on itself and create another finished edge that you will not see. To do this, I just use my finger and kind of like rub my fingers together, rubbing it into that space. So I just roll it forward with my first finger. And then I'll add a little bit of hot glue into the insides of those so that they are kind of pinched. And here I am going to go ahead and add my arms, and then I realize later that I have to add my tree parts before I can add my arms, so I do end up removing this after I get it glued on. But it is a great opportunity to go ahead and set up my arms onto the top of that cone. So I figured I would go ahead and leave it in for the benefit of seeing how I do that. And I just twisted these wires together. They kind of naturally did it, and I just kind of allowed that to happen and kind of added on to that. And then I glued them to the top, but like I said, I'll end up removing that once I realize I can't add those cone pieces or those tree pieces with those arms on there. Now here, I've made my tree pieces a little bit bigger than necessary, and I did this so that if your cone is a little bit bigger, it will still work using this pattern. But to adjust for the smaller, you see I left it turned right side out, and I just added a little bit more hot glue, and you'll see me do this again for this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and take it off and add a little bit. I'll flip it right back inside out and add a little bit more hot glue to each of those top edges, and this just allows me to be able to size it down just a little bit, and it does not negatively affect the tree shape or look in any way. And I'm not going to add the top two pieces until I've added my beard and my nose, but I do want to go ahead and turn them right side out and just check them out. And remember, I do have an alternative, so I wanted to show both of those in this video. So I have the rounded cap, which I actually used in the very first one I made, and then I have this little pointed one, which I ended up using in this tutorial video because I wanted you to see both options. Now I'm going to cut the beard, so I'm tracing this on the back of the pre-cut Hobby Lobby faux fur, and this works very, very well for this size of gnome. So I'm just tracing it out on the back of that, and then I'll go ahead and grab my very sharp box cutter and just really gently cut that off. If your box cutter or X-Acto knife is not cutting easily, then your blade is dull and you'll need to change it. I promise you, every time I am struggling with cutting through the material really easily, I forget that my blade may be dull, and it is every single time. So here I'm just touching up a little bit of that hot glue, reactivating it so that it will go away, disappear, and now I'm ready to add my beard. I've kind of adjusted my fur so that I can have an idea of where I want the nose to go, and I'm putting the hat on just to kind of test it out. And I like the way it looks, so I'm going to go ahead and add my arms, and then I'll add my nose. So I'm adding that hot glue and adding those arms back like they were before. For my nose on this gnome, I've chosen to use a clay nose, and for my clay nose, I baked them, and before I baked them, I poked a hole in the back of them so that I could insert a toothpick. I recommend if you are making your own noses out of clay that you do this method. It will ensure that your nose will not fall off with temperature adjustments or anything like that. So I'm just adding that hot glue to the back and then going to insert my little toothpick, and then I'll clip off the excess and insert my toothpick into the area that I've made, little dot I've made for my nose. You can also alternatively use a pom-pom, a little tan pom-pom, or felt nose with a cotton ball. I've done many of those in many other classes. You can also choose a wood ball nose. These are fabulous alternatives and they're very easy to do. And here I'm just trying to decide on which hat cap I want to use, and I end up going with the more pointy one again because I wanted you to see both versions. I absolutely love the way both of these little hats turn out for both kinds of gnomes. Now I'm just going to add some beading, and I'm going to wrap it all the way around. I do show this process. I just kind of loosely hang the beads, and I kind of mimic as if I was going to be doing a real Christmas tree. How would I want my beads to hang? When I get my beads to the top of the body, I do go ahead and cut it off, and then I will add new beads, a separate little piece of beads to the cap. And I tried to end it and start it. So end the body and start the cap in the same area, one underneath and one above. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, and I'll show you here in just a second. It was a little bit difficult to do and show at the same time. I'm ready to go ahead and add my little pom-pom ornaments. So before I glue them down, I kind of lay them out so I can see how they would look. And so that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just kind of laying them out, getting an idea for where I want them. And then once I decide I like where they are, I will glue them down. And then I like to add a couple to the top, the hat, after I add the body. Now I'm ready to add my little star on top, so I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue and place it right over that top bead just to kind of disguise it. And then I realized I need to wrap the shoes, and I didn't show the first one, but I just measured out how much would wrap around the base of the ankle and glued one piece to start me and then just wrapped it around, and we'll glue the other piece to finish it off, and I'll hold on to it until it sets and then it's good to go. That is it for my Christmas tree gnome class. I hope you've enjoyed this class. If you have and you weren't aware, please be sure I have other classes on my website at tenderfootvillage.net. Please check them out if you get a chance. And as always, thanks for watching.